What's it really like owning a Harley-Davidson motorcycle, and is it still for the blue-collared worker? Let's talk about it. So despite what we're going to talk about in this video, I still absolutely love this motorcycle. It's a 2023 Lowrider ST, if you're new to the channel. And I've got some videos where I just did a couple reviews. I did the 1,600 mile review. Now I'm actually over 2,100 miles on this thing and still absolutely love it. Have no regrets about buying it. And I just started riding motorcycles about a year ago, and I knew going into it that I wanted a Harley-Davidson motorcycle because that's all I've ever known about motorcycles is people that actually rode had Harley-Davidsons, and there was kind of a culture with those motorcycles. And it's just mainly you're buying the brand with the motorcycle. Like a lot of other things, people are brand specific. A lot of the times you pay for the brand on top of the price of whatever you're buying, and that's no different with Harley-Davidson. They're expensive. Not only are you buying that bike, but you're buying into the brand and lifestyle of being a Harley-Davidson owner. And that's their big thing, is that Harley-Davidson is a family. No matter what dealership you buy it from, obviously that dealership saying that you're part of that family, but you're really becoming part of the Harley-Davidson community, even if you're buying, say, like a Sportster or a touring bike. And really, no matter what motorcycle you buy, whether it's Indian, Triumph, whatever you have, even if it's a sport bike, you're part of that community, and it's kind of like people respect you because you ride. One of the things about Harley-Davidson is I think they still have the stigma of, if you see a Harley rider, you think he's a grumpy old man. But realistically, there are younger riders within Harley-Davidson. I don't consider myself an old grumpy old man, but you know, it's Harley was kind of always seemed to be geared towards the blue-collar worker. And I don't really think that's true anymore, that these bikes are for the blue-collar workers. And here's why. I want to give you a couple examples on the bikes I have. And unfortunately, I don't know if, you know, Indian might be the same way or some other dealers, brands, stuff like that. But in my experience being a Harley owner for about a year now, I've had two different bikes, and they're expensive. I bought both of them brand new, and the first one being a 2022 Iron 883. It was, because they no longer make those anymore, but it's pretty much Harley's entry-level bike. That bike was, I think I paid like $12,200 for it before taxes and all that stuff. And for an Iron 883, if you've ever had the pleasure of owning one or riding one, there's not much to it. It's a beginner motorcycle, and I quickly found that out, but I was glad I bought that one because it is a good one to learn on. But for $12,000, what you're actually getting with that bike, I don't think it's worth it, because it's a small bike. It's not really meant for the highway. It only has 5 gears, and the suspension is terrible. It has no power. Now, I know that's not what the Sportster was originally made for, but you know, that's kind of what it's being sold as now. Is in today's world, it's an entry-level bike. But to get into the Harley-Davidson brand in their smallest, most basic bike, you're paying over $12,000. I have a hard time believing that it's for the blue-collar worker anymore, let alone this motorcycle, which is a 2023 Lowrider ST, $25,000, and that was at one dealership. There was another dealership that I bought the Sportster from that wanted $30,000 for this thing. You can buy a brand new car for less than that. And you know, most blue-collar people, especially middle class nowadays, in the times that we're in, a lot of people don't have extra money to spend like they used to. And instead of trying to work with people on that, Harley-Davidson just seems to keep raising their prices. I know when I was originally looking at the Sportster, you know, not that long ago, you used to be able to get a brand new Sportster for well under $10,000. I think I saw some, like, you used to be able to buy them for 8, 8,000, 9,000 new, and that's a good price for that bike. But now, just a few years down the road, you can't find a new one for under 12. Like, that is just insane. So then if you want to jump up into this platform or even the touring platform, you're spending, maybe 25 to, if you go to a CVO model, $50,000 on a motorcycle. Now, a lot of people do that, and a lot of people, that's their main mode of transportation. That's great. But there's a lot of people to where it's just something to ride when they have time, maybe on the weekends. If you do go on a trip, take that. So it's not your main transportation. So you have probably you have your house payment, you probably have another car payment, bunch of other bills, and then yet, because you want a Harley-Davidson, you basically have another new car payment. And not only that, get over the price of the motorcycle, but what really makes me think that they're getting away from their core buyer is maintenance on this thing. Any work that you do at the dealership to try and stay in that warranty, if you buy it new, you have to have it done at a certified Harley dealership. And the 1,000-mile service on my Sportster was like $375. Now, supposedly they change all the oils, check all the bolts, make sure everything is tight. Supposedly they do that. I don't know if they still do. They probably check a few of them, but just to change the fluids, make sure everything's working correctly on the bike, you're at about $375, maybe more or less depending on where you live. I'm in Kansas City, so that's what it was here. And that's a lot of money for a fluid change. And that's just the first service. Then obviously the services that come after that, especially the more miles that you get on the bike, become more expensive. And can a lot of people do their own maintenance? Yes, but it is nice to not have to worry about it. Just take it to the dealer, have them do it, and then you're good to go ride and do whatever you want to. There's people out there that love wrenching and everything like that. I'm not a mechanic by any means, so I could change the oil on this if I wanted to, but I would prefer to have the Harley dealership do it to make sure it's done right and nothing's messed up. And in case anything comes up, they have the ability to fix it. Not only are you paying hundreds of dollars for them to change the fluids on your motorcycle, anything else that needs to be done, minimum they charge $185 an hour for labor. Now again, that's here in Kansas City. Prices may be different where you're at, but they're high. I mean, $185 an hour, and they're spending a minimum of an hour even on something small. So that is a lot of money to maintain these bikes through the dealership. And we can all be honest and agree that that mechanic is not making $185 an hour. Obviously, a good chunk of that is going to the dealership. So not only did you spend the price of a new car on that bike, you're paying up the butt for them to maintain it. And as we all know, the stock setup on a Harley motorcycle is not the best. There's going to be things that you want to change. The exhaust, maybe it's just the full exhaust, and you want to do a stage 1 or just slip-ons. Probably going to want to change the seat and somehow change the handlebars to where they fit you. Well, the price of that is super expensive. Now, I did do a video on this bike saying, the number one reason to buy this motorcycle is because it's, for a stock setup, it is really good. You can just take it and go. And that's true, and still is. I pretty much have it stock with some minor stuff that I've done, but there are things I want to change. Like, I want to make this bike 2-up so my wife can ride and enjoy it. You're looking at, probably with tax, for the Salomon seat I want, it's going to end up being about maybe just under $500. But then you got to put passenger pegs on it, and that's another, maybe $200. And that's if you do it yourself. You have the Harley dealership put those pegs on. They're probably going to charge you an hour, which is $185. And just literally anything it seems like I want to do to this bike, and the same thing on my Sportster, but it's like anything you want to upgrade, it almost seems to be like $500. I want to put some Cobra slip-ons on this thing. after taxes and stuff like that, you're creeping up on about 500 bucks. I want to get a new helmet. That's about a minimum of 500 bucks for a good one. And that's not a Harley thing. That's just seems like any motorcycle you have, aftermarket parts are pricey. But you know, Harley releases their new models and have a big show about what they're doing in that next year's model. Well, until they came out with this bike, I mean, they really haven't done much. They'll maybe change some paint colors on a bike, might even have fewer options as paint colors on the bike, and that's really about it. Yet that bike versus the previous year's model is a couple $1,000s more, and nothing's really changed. And I think that's kind of one reason that Harley's losing customers to, say, like Indian motorcycles, because Indian has a lot more technology in their motorcycles. So you could get something that is equivalent to the Lowrider ST for probably a little bit cheaper, yet you're going to have more technology available in that bike than you do with the Harley. Now, there's probably the old school guys that prefer not to have the technology, which is fine. You know, this thing really has minimal technology, and I'm fine with that. But I could get the same type of bike at Indian and have like this whole infotainment center and rider modes and all this stuff. And it's funny because Harley-Davidson released the 2023 CVO models, and they're talking about all this technology that it has. Well, guess what bike already has that? Indian's touring model already comes with the LED headlight, the infotainment center, the rider modes, and pretty much everything else a lot less expensive. And there's only a select few people out there that can afford those CVO bikes. As cool as they look and as much as I would want one, there's no way I would ever pay that much for a Harley-Davidson. But the main thing about this video is I think personally that Harley-Davidson is pricing out their core family or community that they say that they have from owning a Harley-Davidson. You know, people that are gung-ho on having the brand, living that lifestyle, are having a hard time being part of that community just because of the price of the bikes and the price to maintain the bikes. And that's why I think they're having a hard time on getting the younger generation into Harleys, because you all know that these millennials and Gen Z or whatever they are don't like to work, so they don't have the money to spend, you know, say $25,000 on a motorcycle when you have the price of student loans and just the general cost of living now. Yet Harley keeps raising their prices. So you're seeing the younger generation going to other brands like Indian and even some others that are cheaper, but they're still getting a motorcycle that they enjoy. And I by no means have a bunch of expendable income to buy an expensive bike. I just, I don't have a personal car. I have a work car, so I don't have a car payment. So that's how I was able to swing buying this. But it's like, man, all these upgrades I want to do, it's going to be a while before I can afford those, because I had to pay for the service. And then, you know, you're looking at a crap ton of money for any upgrade that you want on these. One of the things about buying a Harley from a dealership is they offer you on their service plans, because they sit you down and say, you know, you're going to have the 1,000 mile, the 5,000, 10, and so forth, and they kind of give you a general idea how much those are going to be. Well, they offer their service plan where you buy the plan and then you don't pay any money at the time of that service. Well, it may sound like a good idea because you could roll that into the loan, and they try and talk a lot of people into doing that. But at the end of the day, you're still paying for that service. You're just paying for it up front versus when the time comes. And then if you do include that within your loan, obviously your payments go up. And then I also found out kind of the hard way that there are two types of Harley dealerships. You have your for-profit ones, and those are the ones that will not tell you the price of the bike when you're looking at them. They don't list the price on the website. And then there's the, I guess you could call them buy volume dealers that actually will upfront tell you the price of the bike. They may or may not, they will probably have them listed on their website. But the fact that a lot of the dealers that I've seen are for profit, owning a business, obviously you want to make profit, but the fact that they wanted to sell me what I got a $25,000 bike for basically $30,000, and still not tell me my interest rate and all this stuff and all this stuff I qualified for. I told them, I was like, hey, so based on this monthly payment that you have at 84 months, I'm paying basically $50,000 or more for that bike that is really MSRP $25,000. And what really got to me about that Harley dealership is they're like, yeah, but you just think about you're paying that monthly payment per month to have fun. He's like, you don't look at it the long haul. And it's like, that is such terrible financial advice. And that's what, if you're looking for a Harley and you don't know that there's two type of Harley dealerships, you may go into that and get pissed off that they're overcharging you for this bike. And then you're going to walk out and go to, like, say, a competitor. Luckily for me, I decided to try other dealerships, but I mean, this one dealership, told me, you have good credits, but you don't qualify for these other programs because whatever excuse that they came up with. Well, the other one I went to that was for, by volume, we're like, no, you got great credit. You qualify for all these different interest rate promotions and stuff like that. Here's exactly what your interest rate we're looking at. And I was, them being upfront and transparent about that is why I bought from them versus the one that's right down the street from me. So it may also be a dealership thing, and having a bad experience at the dealerships that are trying to make as much money off these motorcycles, and they're outpricing these bikes. You would think that for a brand that is having some difficulties financially and with their dealers and not being able to get a younger demographic into the motorcycles, they would kind of look at some things and change some things. Take some feedback from people that are having these bad experiences of dealerships overcharging for the motorcycles, overcharging for the service. And I think that, if by changing just even that and not letting dealerships charge over MSRP on a bike, I think with just that, you're going to get more people in buying bikes. And for the most part, you never really pay MSRP for a car. You're always going to get it for less. Unfortunately, that's not true with motorcycles, apparently. And I apologize for the probably not so good audio. It is just super windy today. But let me know down in the comments kind of your guys' experience with Harley, and if you're still in the Harley brand, and if you've left and gone to something else, why, and if maybe any of those things had factored into your decision. And the one downside to the dealership I did buy this bike from, that I ended up getting a better price on it from, is when I bought my Sportster, the salesman was great, and he followed up with me all the time. Like, I know, Harley sets it to where they're supposed to follow up with you every so often, but he actually did that, and I personally ended up liking him as a salesman, and he always, checked in and kind of showed me some different things that I could do with the bike and his bike, and all this stuff. Well, unfortunately, he didn't work at that dealership anymore, so I wasn't able to buy from him. And so when I went to the new dealership, and ended up, the salesman was, great. I had to travel about 2.5 hours to go do the paperwork, and they were going to deliver it for me for free, which is great. And they were all nice, gave me a tour of that dealership and told me about how you're being part of the family and all this stuff. And, same spiel that you get anytime you buy a bike from Harley, that you're being part of their family. But one thing I noticed is, even though I really liked my buying experience from that dealership, I have yet to hear from that salesman who essentially ended up selling me the bike. So yes, I got a better deal through them, but I don't know if it's because I live out of town or whatever, but I definitely have not heard back from that salesman to check up on this bike. The only person that has followed up with me is the service guy, because he knows, I wanted some parts on my 1,000-mile service, and he was wanting to get that scheduled, which is great, but he's the guy that wants to take your money for the service. So it's just unfortunate. I did have a great buying experience with that dealership, but as far as any follow-up, kind of lacking there. And just like, you know, most car companies and places nowadays, it seems like there's some QA issues that people have. You know, that you buy a new bike, and there's been a lot of people that have problems on pretty much any model Harley-Davidson, you know, and you know, a lot of it is covered under warranty, but again, you're buying a brand new bike at a premium price. You would think that since this is American made, there wouldn't be any issues. When I bought my Sportster, I think before I hit 500 miles, I noticed it was leaking fluid, and to the point where it wasn't normal. It wasn't like they overfilled it or anything like that. So I took it in, and it turns out there was a cracked piston on a brand new bike, and the guy's even like, I have no idea how that happened. And that dealership just gave me the runaround on service. They're like, oh, we'll have it done at the end of the week. Well, that end of the week never came, and then it was always an excuse. And then once I made a big enough fuss, it was miraculously done. But at the end of the day, with all that said, I still love this motorcycle. Glad I bought it. I honestly wish I would have gotten into riding sooner than I did. Waited until my mid-30s, but now that I've found it, I found the bike that I really enjoy, and I definitely take this thing out all the time, and you know, do love the rider community and all that. Just that Harley-Davidson, I think, needs to kind of change some things, and I think it's, you know, they can easily do that to appeal to the younger and more broader buyers. So again, let me know what your guys' experience have been in the comments below. Let me know what bike you guys have and if you like it, and what you're planning on, any upgrades to your Lowrider ST. Still trying to do some research on some things that I want to do to this one down the road. But if you guys like this video, go ahead and smash that like and subscribe button, and check out these other videos of both the Iron 883 and the Lowrider ST.